Hi guys, it's Sophie, and today I'm going to bring you the second half of my May wrap-up. So hopefully you saw earlier in the month I put the first half of a May wrap-up in to try and shorten them down, because I realised that I read quite a lot of books and they must make very long videos for you to watch. So I'm going to jump straight into it with you. So the first book that I read in the second half of May was Why We Broke Up by Daniel Handler and illustrated by Mara Kalman. So I very much enjoyed this book. I went into it a little bit sort of skeptically almost. I was worried it was going to be really emotional and it was going to be one that sort of pulls on your heartstrings rather than developing it with writing, just sort of quite manipulative writing. But I didn't find that, and I thought the illustrations were absolutely gorgeous. So in short, this book is about a couple, and it's about it's written in sort of letters almost, that the female of the partnership writes to the boyfriend when they have broken up, each one detailing a reason why they aren't together anymore. It's very good. I'd recommend this one even if you don't like YA actually. It's just a really good sort of look at a relationship almost, and look at how relationships develop and what causes them to end. I would really recommend this one. I think I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read was The Silence of Six by E.C. Myers. I'm not going to talk about this one in the wrap-up because I did a separate book review video, which I will link down below if you're interested. And I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, but 3.5, really Goodreads rounds up, you know. And the next book that I read was The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Steinman. I really enjoyed this book. Along with The Night Circus and The Secret Life of Bees, it's made my May a really quite incredible adult reading month. None of the books are difficult, this one included, but they are very good and they are very touching. So just to sum the plot up, this is about a couple who live in a lighthouse and they've not had any children of their own, and one day a boat washes up with a dead man and a baby that's crying, and it's about them sort of deciding what to do with themselves and their life following this event. It's very good. It's not quite heartbreaking, but it did tug at me and I did actually cry at the end of this one. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read was The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. So this is the second H.G. Wells book that I've read. I read The Time Machine last month and I enjoyed this one a lot less than The Time Machine. I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. Still very short, but I didn't feel as though the character was sort of true. I didn't feel as though it was developed. I didn't feel as though there was much of a connect, and I just didn't enjoy it half as much. The character, essentially. I didn't think the character was up to it, so I give this one 2 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read I'm really excited to have finished, and it's Dust by Hugh Howey. So this is the last book in the Wool trilogy, and I read Wool and Shift middle of last year, I think, in the sort of summertime, and I did really enjoy them. I thought it was sort of a solid sci-fi series, but I never got around to the last one. I'd read them back to back. I just didn't feel like picking up quite a big, quite heavy book. It's not too fat, but it is, the pages are tall, and yeah, it was a bit daunting. So I finally picked it up, I finally finished the series, and at the end. But I'm glad to have read it. I'm glad to know how it all wraps up and what happens with the characters that you've been following throughout these 3 books. This isn't a highly recommended sci-fi series for me. I know a lot of people do enjoy it. I like the series, but overall it was probably a sort of 2 or 3 star series. I actually only gave this book 2 stars because of the way that it did end. It was just very unsatisfying for me, but I'm very glad to have read it because it can go on my shelf as another read series, and I do feel sort of much better for having finally finished it. And the last book that I read in May, or that I've read so far, I expect there's one more I'm going to finish, which I'll show you in a second, but it's this book. It's Nightfall by Marissa Pessl. I love this book. I read it, I finished it, I went upstairs to my brother and told him how unfair everything was, and then I wanted to read it again, and I had to try so hard not to just open it again and read it again. This is my second favourite book that I've ever read. My first favourite book is The House of Leaves. This is the only thing that's ever come close to the feeling House of Leaves gave me. I thought it was absolutely incredible. The first thing I did as soon as I finished it was to buy her previous actually, novel, so I'll have both of everything she's written. I cannot get over this book, and I don't want to. I want to read it again. I will read it again. but I want to distance myself from it, because if I do read it again, I'll feel the same way as I do now. I'll feel very excited, very peppy. I want to wait and I want to enjoy it again, all over again. And yeah, I really highly recommend it. In terms of the plot, just to give you a little bit of an impact, but you'll not get it until you read it, to be perfectly honest. I didn't. I thought it would be good. I didn't think it would be like this. A girl is found dead, having what appeared to be jumped from a sort of very tall building, from the roof of a sort of tall empty warehouse type thing. And she is the daughter of a renowned horror movie director called Kavona. And we follow an investigative reporter called Scott, who sort of looks into the death of this girl and examines her death in light of who her father was. And it's creepy and makes you think, and it's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. If you like horror, if you like mysteries, if you like thrillers, if you like good characters, if you like a good book, just read it. It's also bloody beautiful. And inside, equally bloody beautiful. So we look, that's what the inside covers look like. And throughout the book, it is filled with these, which are sort of taken from the pages of a website that's mentioned in the book. It's so immersive. There's also an app, which I sort of didn't know about until afterwards. I was like, I have to find something else about this book. There's an app. And there are points in the book at which you can scan a page and it will give you like a podcast or like an interview with a character or more information, more book. You need more. Go Night Film, please. If there's anything that I have recommended to you yet, this overtakes all of them. 5 out of 5 stars. Go do, please. Okay, and the very last book, which is going to be anticlimactic no matter what I say, because I've just mentioned Night Film, it's Feed. I've not actually finished this one yet. It was one that was on my list of ones I didn't want to read, which is why I picked it up after Night Film, which might sound harsh, but it meant that I was going to expect it not to be as good. So even though I had sort of lower expectations for this, it was never going to be as good as the one I just read. So that's fine, and I didn't feel as though it was too much of a drop from my normal level. And I'm actually quite enjoying it. I'm nearly done. It's got this little bit here left, but I thought I'd just include it because certainly I'll finish this, if not tonight, then tomorrow, and that'll be my final book for May. So just a little bit about the plot. The idea is that we have a situation where zombies are all over the world, but it's really interesting in the fact that it's a book that is, you know, zombie based, but it's nothing to do with zombies. It's about a group of reporters who are trying to report on a political campaign throughout this, and the zombies are just sort of there. They're a nice sort of plot mechanism, but it's not like awful. There's still a government, there's still a system to vote, there are still cinemas and such if you want to venture out and go to them. Yeah, I read Parasite in the Parasitology trilogy by her, and I really enjoyed it, and that's why I picked up this one. And I would recommend that you try one, actually, because I've not heard anyone talk about them. But I don't know, I don't tend to like zombies, but I do tend to like sort of disaster illnesses, if that makes sense. But even with the zombies in this, which normally would have put me off entirely, I'm actually still quite enjoying it. So I've yet to give it a star rating because I've yet to finish it, but so far it's looking like it's going to be a 3-star, 4-star book maybe. Okay, so that means in total I will have read 19 books in the month of May, assuming that I finish Feed, which I hope I will, which isn't too bad for me. It's one of the lower months I've had this year, but I'm not unhappy with it. I've read some really good books and I have enjoyed a lot of the books I've read, so that's absolutely fine by me, and I'm trekking on through that TBR for 0 by 16, so that's good news too. When I get to 20 on my TBR, I am going to do an update for you and show you what's left and show you which ones I'm going to read next and if I'm going to unhaul any, but I'm not quite there yet. 15 more books to go. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. I hope that you've had a really lovely May and that lots of nice things have happened to you, that the reading has been good and life has been kind. I'll see you very soon in my next video, though I'm not sure what the content will be yet. Bye bye.